Welcome to Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture of literature. I'm Adrian Ford.
And I'm Dalton Gentry.
And we are here for part one of a four-part series as we journey along the road.
The Road by Cormac McCarthy, a book that I have read halfway through 6 times. I have never been able to finish this one.
Even in class?
Even in class, absolutely not. I've
Really?
never finished this book. I believe one of our early videos we did a 6 list. And it was 6 books that I did not finish, and this was one of them.
I bet it surprised me then as well.
It probably did, but I was excited that we were going to do this one again. And 108 pages into part 1,
Yeah.
I realized why I never finish it.
Yeah, you're finishing it this time.
I know. I'm going to drag myself through the road. But yeah.
So what's happened so far? You're the recap guy, so give us the
Okay.
recap.
This is the hardest recap I've ever had to write. So the man and the boy, as they are beautifully named, are traveling on the road. They're going south. It's assumed it's a post-apocalyptic kind of wasteland. I believe there's a good hint that it is a nuclear fallout. There was a bit of talk of an explosion at one point. But the world is gray and the world is terrible, and they're just wandering. Eating out of cans, pushing their shopping cart. They hide a little bit. They shoot a guy. And then they end up in a house. And we don't know where we're going from here.
Yeah, so I know where we're going from here, but it
I do
doesn't
too.
matter.
I've made it most of the way through this many times. I know where we're going. But, dear God, nothing happens.
No, and so you said nuclear fallout.
Yes.
I don't believe that is correct.
Really?
I think it is a volcanic fallout. There's a national park that is a volcano. It's an active volcano, but it hasn't gone off in millions of years or something.
Krakatoa? Is that in the United States? Or are we talking about like Mount St. Helens up towards Seattle?
Is it Mount St. Helens?
I believe so. I could be wrong. Anyway, a volcano.
Anyway, I'll look into it.
A volcano could... basically, they talked... The earth shook and there was a flash of light, and now civilization as we know it is gone.
Yeah, at least in the United States. Or these characters might be from Canada.
Okay.
I'm not. I don't think the only real things we know is that they are heading south. They are, I believe, in the United States currently, and they are in a northern part because we
Mountainous.
get the mountainous, and you get the trees, the ones frost rot birches.
Okay.
You get the birch trees. So you are in at least the northern half of the United States or North America.
It's an interesting point, actually, because I realize that I'm so pretentious when I read this. I just assume it's the United States. I'm like, yeah, they're writing about the United States. That's clearly what's happening.
Everyone speaks English, so you're assuming, and they're heading south. Now, in the United Kingdom, heading south doesn't do you much good. Like it's not that much different.
True.
But we know we are in the northern North America because of the birch trees.
Okay.
This is what I like to refer to as a bad example of the unknown.
Okay.
We don't know what the inciting event was for this apocalypse. There's no reason for us not to know. The man knows everything about it, doesn't he?
He does. He does.
He was prepared for it, wasn't he?
The man existed before the fallout of whatever happened. The boy was born in the chaos.
Right. So, further from that mystery, we don't know the inciting event, what happened. We don't know the man's name. We don't know the boy's name. We don't know the woman's name, do we?
No, we don't.
We don't know what the man did. We have reason to believe he was a doctor because some of the things he said and some of the things he said to the guy he shot.
Very true.
Plus the fact that his wife and his son survived birth. So he probably knew what he was doing at some point during those events.
And with the man he shot, he was even asked, are you a doctor? He said, it didn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Didn't matter what I was. So we have reason to believe that he is at least educated. If not, he was a medical doctor.
Very fair.
If he is a medical doctor, he would not have really had any reason to be as prepared as he was for the inciting event. He wakes up in the middle of the night, sees the inciting event, and automatically draws water. Is that going to be the first thing on your mind when the world is on fire? So we don't know further how they survived. We don't know further how long it's been. The boy is not given an age. We don't know where exactly they're going. We don't know what road they're on. We don't know where they are. They don't know where they are, but they do because they've got a map. It's just things that are left out to be left out.
Okay.
And it doesn't, you have the sense that Cormac McCarthy, the writer, knows at least some of these answers. But
Okay.
I'm not sure that he has a full grasp of them. I never really feel, at least in these first 108 pages so far, that we're in the hands of a writer who has the answers to all of these questions. Do you?
Okay. No. And let's talk a little bit about the writing itself here. Just getting into the initial pages of this. There's some decent writing in here, honestly. There are some moments that I do enjoy.
I'm guaranteeing you that you're picking out pretentious moments.
Probably. There's some haunting moments though, because there's some things going on with this. It's like it's got that creep factor. It's done well.
It could have that creep factor. I think it's just written very pretentiously and it's written very hands-off, and that's why we get that this is a Pulitzer Prize winner. Because academics love this text.
Okay.
Professors love this text.
Okay.
Because they see this text as gloves off.
Interesting.
They've never read something guttural like Fight Club.
Okay.
They've
Good
never
point
read
with that.
something
Good
that is
point.
just visceral.
There is a lot of that going on here when we're seeing the depravity of human nature, the instinct to survive.
But it's with gloves on.
Okay.
Is it not? Is it not?
Got a quote here from 47 I enjoyed. I actually have my Adrian Ford highlights and sticky notes now. There was a skylight about a third of the way down the roof, and he made his way to it in a walking crouch. The cover was gone, and inside the trailer smelled of wet plywood and the sour smell he'd come to know. He had a magazine in his hip pocket, and he took it out and tore some pages from it and wadded them up and got out his lighter and lit the papers and dropped them into the darkness, a faint whooshing. He wafted away the smoke and looked down into the trailer. The small fire burning in the floor seemed a long way down. He shielded the glare of it with his hand, and when he did, he could almost see in the rear of the box human bodies, sprawled in every attitude, dried and shrunken in their rotten clothes. The small wad of burning paper drew down to a wisp of flame and then died out, leaving a faint pattern for just a moment in the incandescent like the shape of a flower, a molten rose. And then all was dark again. Apologies for my reading today. That's terrifying.
It's super pretentiously written.
You
though.
think so?
Yeah, it's very poorly written. Imagine the shock, awe, and horror. Not to mention, if I could steal a term from video games, survival horror that you could have put into that moment.
Okay.
You know survival horror?
I do.
Sprung from Resident Evil. What you could be doing in there is he never really takes inventory of his items. Do you know why he never takes inventory of his items?
Why is that?
Because the writer doesn't want to have to remember.
Okay.
Because the writer doesn't want to have... The writer wants to be able to say, well, we've got a can of pork and beans for tonight.
Now, he does inventory the items after he loses the majority of them, which would be a normal reaction.
But it is not a real inventory.
True.
We don't get numbers.
True.
Now, normally in this situation, one of the rules of burnt tongue writing is numbers mean nothing.
Okay.
But here, numbers would absolutely mean something because this is a person living by sheer numbers.
In a survival situation, absolutely. And I would love to come back to that survival situation because there is something in this that just fires me up. But back to that writing, I will agree it's not great by any means. And the reason that it bugs me, I finally pegged it. It's so staccato. Paragraph, 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 paragraph. Nothing flows with this whatsoever. And even if you just opened any page, you can see that.
Yeah.
The dialogue is very simple. There's no dialogue tags. It's just the man and the boy talking.
And there's no quotes.
There's no quotes.
Yeah, no quote marks.
And the dialogue is so simple, it is always, I know. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. And a terrible father, by the way. like at this point, at this point in this world, you don't know if that kid is going to survive. You lie to the kid.
You keep his hopes up.
You've got no reason to tell this kid the truth.
Now, there are moments where we see that glimpse of a good father when they find the Coca-Cola. And he gives it to the boy. It is a treat of a world past, something he will never have again in his life. You can see those shining moments of the father who's still doing everything he can for his son. But yeah, I'd agree. It's kind of hard to keep the kids' hopes up. Are they bad guys? Yep. Are we going to die? I don't know.
Eventually, son.
Yeah, one of these days. Survival. I enjoy me a good hike and a good backpack every now and then. Don't go as often as I would like to. Into the Wild, wonderful book. I enjoy these things. At one point, this gentleman stumbles upon 3 cans of tomatoes. Home canned tomatoes. And maybe this is just what set me off, and maybe I'm terribly wrong here, and this is why I will die in the apocalypse. In the pantry were 3 jars of home canned tomatoes. He blew the dust from the lids and studied them. Someone before him had not trusted them, and in the end neither did he. And he walked out with the blankets over his shoulder, and they set off along the road again. That's not survival.
On the road again?
On the road again. That is not survival in the least. That is absolutely the opposite. This is Cormac McCarthy just being Cormac McCarthy, trying to be as dramatic as he can for dramatic safe. Oh, it wasn't safe, so he put it back. Giving the character here a little bit of knowledge that may be out of his realm. If you're starving and you come across 3 cans of tomatoes, however questionable, you're going to take them. Because when it comes down to it, when you haven't eaten in 2 weeks and you're on death's doorstep, those tomatoes are going to do one of 2 things. They're going to get you by for another few days, and maybe you'll survive, or they're going to kill you off anyway. And quite honestly, I take my gamble. When it comes down to it, I would gamble that those tomatoes are going to get me by a little bit further. It does not make sense to me in this situation he would pass on those. Not in the least.
It does to me. And the reason it does to me is the same reason that we have all of this fear because there's only 1 bullet left.
Okay.
Do you know what the worst case scenario for that 1 bullet is?
For that 1 bullet?
Yeah.
I don't know how I would define worst case scenario, because honestly, best case scenario, he puts the boy down.
That's worst case scenario.
You think so?
Yeah, that's worst case scenario. But that's why there has to be 1 bullet left.
Okay.
You put the boy down because, like the woman says earlier, if these tribes of people catch him, he's probably going to just be raped ad nauseum, right?
I think that's best case scenario. You put him down, though.
but
it's unfortunate. It's the worst possible situation.
Let's agree to disagree that it is the worst best case scenario.
It is the worst best case scenario.
And the best worst case scenario.
It's a great moral question. It is.
Right, absolutely. But that's also the reason you don't risk it with these tomatoes. Your entire goal is not survival, it's the boy's survival.
Okay.
So if you eat these tomatoes and you die, but maybe the boy is young enough and spry enough that he somehow makes it
The boy's
through.
going to die because he's on his own.
Right. And he's probably, the first thing he's going to do is look for help. Right.
Yeah. That's
so
not going to end well.
It's not going to end well. So I think that's the reason that you're looking at that you're looking at that moment there, because so your 0 is death, 100 is you get to this warm place in their civilizations, right?
Okay.
Right now you're at 3. So there's not very far to drop, sure. But do you want, if those tomatoes are slightly off, you are so emaciated that it's game over.
True.
Like there's no chance.
But I think that's just your out again. That's your one gamble on life. If you are to the point of without food another day, you're done. I gamble on them. And I'm the kind of man, if something is in my fridge, let's say I make soup. It's good fall weather soup. 3 days. It's in my fridge for 3 days, it's thrown out.
Yeah.
I will not eat it after that. I'm terrified of things like that.
Yeah.
Those canned tomatoes go with me. Because at the end, the most desperate of desperate.
I think there is an argument to be made there.
Yeah.
There's also an argument to be made there. He's got the shopping cart. He's got the basket, pardon me. He never feels that it's necessary to save some wood.
True. To build a fire.
Yeah. I think that is a huge flaw in the practical part of this. Because worst case scenario, you've got to drop everything and go anyway. Worst case scenario, we've gone to once where his stuff's rummaged through, right? So it's not a matter of weight because it's in the shopping cart. You're not carrying it. But we see him several times get into a predicament, or at least once, get into a predicament where there's not good wood to burn. Why haven't you kept some?
Just to add to this, and I realize at this point now we've been arguing about tomatoes for 5 minutes. This is our life. There is the situation where they lose the shopping cart. And they still have their pack. However, there's not much in that pack.
Yeah.
That seems just asinine to me. In this survival situation, even in a normal day situation, it is always a good idea to have some kind of bag, some kind of backup. And if I'm going to be traveling down this road, I am still going to have that bag attached to me all times with at least enough to get me by. Not just what happened to be in it. I'm going to know exactly what's in that bag because that's my out. That's my backup.
Yeah, that's the yeah.
So there's a lot of flaws.
That is what is referred to as EDC, everyday carry.
Okay.
So in survivalist terms.
See, now in adult terms, that's the Electric Daisy Carnival, which is a whole different thing. And you're going to make sure that you take everything with you because you're going to lose yourself.
Well, the Electric Daisy Carnival, I imagine, in your pack is the one trip of acid that is left. Worst case scenario, this is what we do.
It's a 30-pound bag with a single half-eaten Pop-Tart in it. And that's all you took with you because that's all you're going to need, maybe. Anyway, it's little things like that. Very little minor things like that really put me off with this.
Yeah.
Because I think what appeals to me about the road, and for some reason what makes me want to like the road, is it's that survivalist idea. And I realize we never have success with books about roads.
No, we never.
If it has road in the title, we're in bad shape.
We hate it.
But there's some kind of appeal here. I want to like this, but it's little minor details like that put me out of this book. It takes me away from the setting, and it makes me question it, and it just doesn't fit for me.
And there's weird little things all along the way that are included or aren't included. For example, on page 51, he's talking about setting things out, and it looks like playing cards. He's setting his stuff out. It looks like
his
playing
wallet.
Cards. Yeah. So yeah. He's taking apart his wallet and saying what's necessary to keep going. He lays out all of his things, and it looks like playing cards. What game does that look like?
You tell me.
Solitaire.
Okay.
You're lining everything up. It looks like a game of solitaire.
Okay.
You absolutely put that in the text. That adds something to the text. You say he felt like he was playing a game of solitaire. You don't say it looked like he was playing with playing cards. You say he felt like he was playing solitaire. Because, one, solitaire means alone, and that's terrible. That's desperate, right? They're in a desperate situation. Two, it reminds us, solitaire. That boy might die at any moment. That's why this is absolutely necessary. This is why we keep going. Solitaire. You don't say it looked like playing cards.
Okay.
You mention the game. Further.
Carry on.
Are you related to this point or
Yes.
in general? Okay, go ahead.
With this point, again, with solitaire, this again helps define your characters. This man existed in the world before. He would have knowledge of what solitaire is. The boy knows what playing cards are. They have a pack at one point in time. Boy doesn't know solitaire.
Yeah.
That defines the character. It shows a little bit more about the depth of the character.
In fact, with their playing cards, they can't play solitaire because they're missing a card.
Yep.
You can never win solitaire if you're missing a card.
Also, damn it if we didn't highlight the same thing again. We have to stop doing this.
But that is a little thing that is weird which is not included. Something weird which is included, the little boy has a toy. What is the toy?
Is it a truck?
It's a truck. Why does the little boy have a toy truck? He came about after the apocalypse. How does he know what a truck sounds like? And further, there is a truck sound in this first part. And what is it associated with?
What is it?
The fact that you might fucking die.
Okay,
The
so
fact
trucks
that you
aren't fun.
No.
Oh, okay.
Trucks aren't
Interesting.
fun.
Interesting.
So why, he presumably, I mean, what is this kid, 7 years old-ish? Somewhere in there, you think? So the tragedy must have he was born post-apocalypse. So we're talking 8 years ago this thing happened, or at least 7 years and 9 months, something like that, right? So what is going on here that this boy not only has a truck, but knows what a truck sounds like and does not associate it with automatic doom? We don't know.
Okay.
We don't know, because this is the bad type of mystery that is involved here. We have so many things that are not told to us, and we have so many reasons to believe counter things intuitive to the text. This boy is not going to associate trucks with good things.
Interesting. Not a point I've thought about, and that is a good point. The only argument I can make against that, just try to kind of play devil's advocate, is the fascination of the truck, that mystery of the truck. However, you're absolutely right. That would be a terrifying thing for the boy, because that's all the boy knows.
And further, the other truck with which they interact is the jackknifed truck that you read the passage from, right? Where he dropped the flame into the...
Also a bad deal.
A bad deal, and perhaps I am misremembering. This book so far through 109 pages is the same scene over and over again. When they approach that truck, he's terrified, isn't he? He keeps saying, "Papa, let's go. Papa, we don't need this."
We get that a lot, so that is very easy to overlook, because the boy is honestly quite terrified. We, at one point, visit the man's home, which is really bizarre. Because if we were to set out, why the hell are we going back to the home, the childhood home? And possibly maybe the childhood home was south. Now that I say that, that would make sense. But it's just there.
But here's the thing. It neither seems, when they stumble upon the house, it does not seem as if he knew it was coming, right? Mm-hmm. But he's got the map. He knows exactly where they're going. B, it does not seem utterly miraculous that they got lost. They got lost and he ended up at the house.
Okay.
Right? At some point, one of those two things is true. And I understand that you're dealing with emaciated characters. It doesn't matter. That moment has to be spectacular to him one way or another.
There has to be something to it. Besides, we were there.
Yeah.
And we moved on.
And here's another thing. Because it popped in my head while I was reading it and I never wrote it down. What the fuck was he sitting around for 7 years for? How did you get to a point where you realize, well, we're not going to survive this winter. We've got to leave and it's the fall.
Time to move.
What the fuck were you doing during the summer? What the fuck were you doing for 7 years? What is going on here? These are the bad mysteries inherent to this text.
Okay.
Things that we have no reason for, but we should have some logic behind.
Okay.
Even if he's just saying, well, you know, I feel like I've doomed my son by sitting and waiting on something to change for too long. He knows immediately. He wakes up during the inciting event and understands.
Shit's hit the fan.
Shit's hit
Run
the
water.
fan. Run the water.
It's not for a bath.
Right.
Okay. Now, try to find some highlights here. Colors. I like my colors. I like my Great Gatsby. I think there's a lot of symbolism in the color here.
Me too. I'm wondering where you're going with that being a highlight, because this book seems to be a practice in how many times and how many ways can I describe the word gray.
Gray. Everything was gray, and it was dark, and it was gray.
Yeah.
Except when he's remembering his past. Those are the only times we get a glimpse of any kind of color, which just absolutely highlights how important that was to him and how different the world once was.
That's the opposite of the Wizard of Oz.
It is. It's perfect. That's why I like it. For the first time we get that is when he first mentions his wife. And he describes her in shades of green and a pale white. And he talks about there's a leafy green to it.
And she has red hair, right?
She has red hair. And then there's just... Does she have red hair?
I believe. Maybe I'm putting that in.
We're running with it. That's the first time we get color. And it signifies this past world and the difference between the two. Color is gone at this point. I mean, it's gray. It's dull. Everything's different now. But when he's reminiscing about those memories, because those are the only things he has left, the only things that can keep him moving are his memories and that boy.
Yeah.
So that's going to be what's most adamant to him, and we get that highlighted. It really pops. It's really nice, and it's memorable because of that. It's the only thing that contrasts the world he's in.
Sure, but what are we doing with it? We don't. So we've got a main character here who is obviously a deep thinker.
Yes, and I feel like yes, it could have absolutely been played upon. There could have been more done with it.
Maybe,
but all that is done with it is it just contrasts the gray.
So, for example, one thing you could do here is, I think his wife had red hair. I might be putting that into the text. For whatever reason, every time I read the text, I picture his wife as Deborah Messing.
Okay.
It's oddly specific. I don't know why. But, so in my mind, that's Deborah Messing, right? So she's got that red hair, that iconic red hair that Deborah Messing has. I hope I'm not misremembering Deborah Messing now. So what you do is, his truck, that little truck he loves, that truck is red.
Okay.
It's not in the text, I don't think. And I don't think he says. But what you do is, as the father, he's constantly polishing that truck to keep the red, to keep the red alive. That's what you do. That is how you use colors in these situations.
Okay.
When everything is gray, you have to attach to the color, right? And that puts symbolism into the color. It puts meaning into the situation. There's so many things that could be done here, and they're just not. They're just not. Mm-hmm. So I don't understand. But we've got on page, and then I'm changing gears completely here.
Move on.
This inciting event. So let me just read this. He woke whimpering in the night, and the man held him. Shh, he said. Shh, it's okay. And this is page 36, I'm sorry. I had a bad dream, I know. Should I tell you what it was? If you want to. I had this penguin that you wound up, and it would waddle and flap its flippers. And we were in that house that we used to live in. And it came around the corner, but nobody had wound it up. and it was really scary. Okay. It was a lot scarier in the dream. I know. Dreams can be really scary. Why did I have that scary dream? I don't know, but it's okay now. I'm going to put some wood on the fire. You go to sleep. The boy didn't answer. Then he said, the winder wasn't turning. To me, A, Fight Club,
Okay.
the penguin.
Penguin dreams.
But B, what can in literature be inferred there in light of the world as it has come to be today? And this was written, I think, published in 2006, so 12 years ago. Artificial intelligence.
Okay.
No one wound it up. No one wound it up. And it was in the previous world. And it scares me now. That is the inciting event. The inciting event could be a nuclear holocaust caused by artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence decides, you know what? Screw these guys. I'm blowing it up.
Alexa in the world.
Yeah, or, so one of the fears with artificial intelligence is that it is not intelligent, but smart. Very, very smart, but smart nonetheless, which means that it could be stupid around the edges, which means that it could accidentally incite something so serious as nuclear holocaust. So I think that that is a weird little quirk that's in there that I don't know if it was planted by the author, because I think it's fairly clear to us.
It seems significant enough it had to have been.
Well, but it seems to me, what in here could not be seen as significant if you're looking at it through the right lens, but never comes to a payoff.
Okay.
I think that the inciting event here was absolutely volcanic in nature because of the way it's described.
It would make a lot of sense with all the ash, things like that. So
Yeah.
it's a good possibility. But I don't know where to go from here. We're going to continue to trudge down the road.
One thing to watch going forward
Okay.
is the difference between civilization and hunter-gatherers, right?
Okay.
Civilization came when hunter-gatherers stopped and said, you know what, I bet we could plant this stuff, right? That's one of the theories how this all started happening.
Make it a little easier.
The difference between civilization and hunter-gatherers, and then hunter-gatherers and scavengers. Because right now we're scavengers.
Absolutely.
Right? Above that, you've got the hunter-gatherer types, who the difference is hunter-gatherers know where to find the stuff. They follow the herds.
Yes.
Things like that.
Forward thought.
Scavengers are taking from situations which have already happened.
Okay.
Right? Buzzards scavenge something that's already been killed or already died. Right? Hunter-gatherers are pursuing the life. Civilization creates life.
Okay.
So I think that is something to watch going forward, because we're having civilizations in this text spring up around scavengers, like Mad Max, right? Those are scavengers, but they're creating civilization. They're skipping the hunting-gathering stage, right? There's nothing to hunt, there's nothing to gather. But we're forming into these pseudo or semi-militaristic societies, which is really weird for me. That's another bad mystery from this text, from whence these come. Again, I think that this is such highly revered a text because academic types were born upper middle class and are now upper class. They don't know what taking the gloves off means.
Okay.
And that's just a base judgment. I mean, that's absolutely just something that I'm throwing out there.
Well, rest your weary brain, because we're going to be back next week.
All
Part
right.
2 of The Road with Strip Cover Lit. Adrian, do you want to end us off here?
I hope that you hit the like button because we're struggling through the road. Subscribe if you were here finding us by chance, and like Cormac McCarthy because we're going to continue to trash him. And if you would like to help us create more content here on Strip Cover Lit, there is, as always, a link to our Patreon to be found in the description below. And I hope to see you next week for part 2 of a 4-part series as we struggle along the road.
Winner of the Pulitzer Prize. Woo, I hope we're good.